Hello, fellow refiners. Tony and Christine here from the Refinement Not Retirement podcast to talk about the Nile cruise that we've just got back from. First, I'll let Christine say hi to you all and to let her also introduce our topic today.
I'm actually going to do a little song. Walk like an Egyptian, walk like an Egyptian. That's it. That's me intro. The clue is Egypt. What with the Nile and the Egyptian walking like one. Don't know where that song came from, mind you, but hey.
Yeah,
Anyway, that was a once in a lifetime experience, wasn't it?
the dance was good.
Hey? Yeah, no,
Uh,
no, no. The trip to Egypt.
oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Wow.
So we should say straight away that this was a vegan cruise. Regular listeners will know that we are both vegans, and we have done a few of these cruises with a wonderful company called Vegan Travel, based in Germany. Small company run by a fabulous guy by the name of Dirk, whose last name I can't pronounce. So I'm not going to try. But
Blocage, I think, is it?
yeah, I think it is.
Blocage?
Although that sounds slightly French, doesn't it? Blocage. But
Yes, it
anyway.
is.
But we all know him as and love him, of course, as Dirk. So that's how I'll refer to him. So yeah, we've been on a few of these cruises. They've been great. Uh, but this one was probably the most adventurous one, would you say, Chris?
Yes, I would. I think we booked it over a year ago, a year last March, March 23. So it's been a long time coming. And of course, with all the war and situation going on over there, there was doubt that it was even going to take place, right? So as we got closer to the commencement of this trip, I had been looking quite closely and looking at the UK government warnings and making sure it was, we were going to be safe. I think quite a few Americans pulled out because they were warned against it, but there was certainly a few of them came, which was great because it wasn't a big cruise. I think there was only 30 people on board, which was fabulous. All suite cruise, and 70 crew members. So it was a pretty special and very different, as you said, cruise in Egypt up the Nile. But then we did, I'm sure you're going to mention that we did we actually added on a pre-cruise, which I think was very important
I
actually,
agree.
because had we just done the Nile from Luxor to Aswan and back, we would have not obviously seen the pyramids and the Sphinx and the museums in Cairo, which were crucial to part of this once in a lifetime trip, I would say.
Yeah, so I think if we were to sort of give a summary of our views of the holiday, very glad that we went on it. Wonderful experience, obviously, to see the icons of the pyramids and the Sphinx and temples, etc. Uh, it, but it's probably something that we would say that we wouldn't need to do again.
No, we
There,
wouldn't do that.
there were some, while it was wonderful, there were some negatives which we'll touch on, because I think it's important anybody considering this trip that you know what to expect. Some things came as a bit of a surprise to us, but yes, we started in Cairo. So what can we say about Cairo? Cairo for me was a historic city with some very important sites to see, but those sites, with all their historic richness, it was odd to see them so close to such ugliness and poverty. Um, you would, with all the tourism that comes in as a result of the wonderful history that Egypt has, came as a bit of a surprise to me that even close to the monuments that all the tourists are seeing every day, that there wasn't more investment. And also I felt that uh, I felt that the government. I got the impression, and it may be a false impression, but I got the impression that the government was sort of holding on to the money and not really sharing the rewards of the tourism out fairly with the people. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think I, I think their money seems to be spent on building these amazing museums, which were phenomenal. I mean,
Hmm.
the what was it called? The Museum of Civilization and the Egyptian. What was the other one? Something Egyptian
I can't remember the names of them.
museum were just uh, phenomenal in the build, the modernness, the size, to house all these incredible treasures. I mean, they were just like museums we've never seen. You couldn't even compare them really to even our British Museum or our Victoria and Albert or even our natural history. They are incredible. And that seems to me to be where all the money goes, because it the Cairo itself, without even thinking about it, I think when we arrived, all you think of is Cairo is going to see the pyramid. But when you arrive and you see this absolute awful city, this poverty, and the people, I mean, who are in the half-built houses, which we learnt start being built, and people live in them without them finishing them, so they don't have to pay their taxes. So
Yeah, it's some sort
if
of tax amelioration or
yes,
dodge, isn't it? Not to finish the building.
but I think if we were not, if we were to, as a tourist, to just go around on the bus and take pictures of Cairo, as Cairo as a city with I think about 9 million people in it, all you would see is, God on earth, what on earth would you want to go to Cairo for? Because there's not really anything to go for other than the pyramids, but you have to drive through that, and the driving is mad. People are walking in the streets. They have like these little mini buses, don't they? Which are,
Mm.
I realise, that are the sort of public buses, which are coming along all the time, and people are standing right in the middle of the road or walking along the side of the road. Cars and motorbikes and mopeds are belting past, and buses
Well, the
and
drivers
animals.
the drivers just seem to aim for gaps
Yes.
and see who can get to the gap quickest. And the cars are covered in dents because they are. Although we didn't see, I don't think we saw any accidents.
No,
Um,
but one of our other our one of our tour bus, our second one, because we were sort of split into two
oh
groups a
yeah,
lot of the time. I
hit
think
a
they
donkey.
hit a
Yeah, yeah.
donkey, and then, oh God, the donkey was all right there apparently, and then I think the engine blew up and it was on fire, so they had to get another bus, but we weren't on that bus,
Yeah, well,
so I think
the vehicles weren't in great. Most of them weren't in
no,
great
they were in a
condition,
terrible
including
state.
the buses that we were taking on our excursions in. But anyway, uh, the food was wonderful. I think it was the best vegan food we've ever experienced.
I agree. It was phenomenal. And
Yeah,
normally, I think if I'm right, is that we normally have our own vegan chef that comes on board, which
yes,
Dirk arranges. And the chefs on board, the sun goddess, um, uh, asked that they could prepare the food, and they wanted to have a go at doing it. And they it was incredible. And in fact, the staff, the crew members, who also have no choice but to eat our food because that's all there is on board, kept saying how much they loved it, and they really were enjoying every minute of it. When I sort of said, "Well, what do you think of it?" They said, "We love it. It's so healthy. It's so great." So that was really nice to hear, because
yes,
some
it
of the
was.
river cruises you don't get that same sort of reaction, do you, from the
No, but
European
I think there's
um,
something about the
crew?
cuisine there that lends itself to plant-based cooking because I think they already have vegan dishes, traditional vegan dishes. I forget the names of them, but
Well,
uh,
the sort of falafels and the
yeah, falafels is one.
baba ganoush, because there is
Yeah,
Turkish influence.
yes.
Um, uh, there too.
Lebanese and also
Yes,
Lebanese.
exactly. Yeah.
I noticed that all the staff were male, not one
Yeah.
female
That, yes,
staff
good
member.
observation. Not one. I did have there was a female massage girl on board.
Yes,
I think that she's a masseuse. So I did have a
that's
couple of
true.
lovely massages from
That's
female, but
true.
that was it. Just that. Just those.
The ship was nice. What one thing that I should mention? Well, let's just talk about an overview. So we had as you say, we had the pre-tour in Cairo. I think that was 3 days, wasn't it? 2 or 3 days, and
Yeah,
then
we
we,
arrived Friday, then Saturday and Sunday doing the
yeah.
museum, the pyramids,
So
the
we we
Sphinx.
we did Cairo, and then we flew from Cairo. It's about an hour south to Luxor,
Yeah.
which is where the cruises, it seems, start from. And then the cruise was for what, another 7 days, was it?
Week. Yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah.
week.
Up
And that
up the
went
Nile to
down
Aswan
to, went
or
to, sorry,
down
is down, isn't it? Yes, down. Went south to Aswan, and then essentially back again.
to the Great Dam.
Yeah. So the whole thing, I mean, what was nice was having all the tours were prearranged and paid for. That was really nice.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that, well, we didn't have to keep thinking about making a choice of whether we go on one or we don't go on one. I liked that. I think that's the first time we've ever experienced that. It's great being with vegan travel because you just know that everything is vegan. All the coffee machines, well, all the coffee machines. I think there was only one on board this ship because it was only a small ship. But all of them have oat milk in them, which is great. So you know everything that you're eating or drinking is going to be vegan. So that was, as I say, very, very nice. The accommodation I thought was good. It was a decent size suite. Do you call it a suite, a
Sweet.
cabin?
They were all sweets. Yes, they were all sweets
We had
on
a
this
balcony,
boat.
which was great. And when you have a balcony on a river cruise, you never know what kind of view you're going to get because very often you're rafted against other ships, and this was no exception. But we were just very fortunate because on our side of the ship, we were on the starboard side of the ship. We seemed to have clear views every day going both ways.
Yeah, we
Uh,
did. It was great.
which I don't know how that happened. I think that was very much a matter of luck, really. But that was great. One thing I would say though that about the cruising experience that did surprise me, and that was the pollution that the ships put out. If you look at the ships and you see that there's black diesel emissions coming out, puffing out of the back of ships, and their backs, their afters are really black. And the bows are black. The front of the ships are black because when they dock, they are behind other ships which are puffing out this crap. And I understand that Dirk chose our cruise line, which is the Sonesta cruise line. I understand he chose them because they um, use only marine diesel fuel. And what I did notice is that our ship was the only one that didn't have that blackness uh, on the back. And I don't know how that was also true of the front, the bow, but I don't know how they do that, but unless they only moor in places where the bow isn't being puffed on by the boat in front, the ship in front. So, but you really notice it if you sit out on the balcony, and you're when you're close to other craft because that traps the pollution and it makes it very unpleasant to sit out there. So I was surprised about that. The other thing that really contributes strongly to the pollution is the fact that they don't seem to have any shore power at all. So all the previous
No.
cruises we've been on, and even our own narrowboat that we used to own, whenever you dock for any period of time, you connect to the shore power. They don't have shore power, so they have to run generators to power everything electric on board they have to run those constantly, which means constant emissions. So that bit was negative.
Yeah, because well, we needed the air conditioning, and going back to the balcony. I mean, I couldn't sit out on that balcony. I think you did more than I did in early morning, but there was no way I could sit out because the heat was searing. It was like being under a blow lamp. Quite frankly, it was quite unbearable. It was dry heat, but I just found it just too much.
I think the enduring image, well, one enduring image of the holiday that I will remember, I think, for a long time, is waking up that first morning on board and going out on the balcony and being greeted by this vista across the Nile of all these hot air balloons, about
Oh
25
yes.
of them, all silently hanging in the early morning sunshine when the temperature is lovely, actually, at that time in the morning, probably about 6:30. That was an incredible sight. The other thing is, what an amazing history the country has, and a long history. I mean, these the sort of ancient Egypt and these temples, they seem to date back to 3200 BC, right up to sort of like 320 BC. And just thinking about that sort of incredible time scale is
Well, it's quite
mind-boggling.
hard to comprehend, though, isn't it? Really,
It is.
and as sort of mere human beings in this day and age, it's hard to remember back your own life, let alone when you see it in front of you and you think it's so many thousands of years, which is why I think I probably enjoyed the most experience I enjoyed was actually the mummies. I know it sounds a bit gruesome, but seeing the mummies
Mm.
and the mummified crocodiles actually, and the human beings, um, where I understand they believed that life after death was more important than life on Earth. So they went to great pains to have themselves mummified, or mummify the dead kings and queens and a lot of the people, because they believed that there was an afterlife coming. So they would live in, I think I'm right in saying they would live in mud houses made of mud, which weren't very not safe, but just didn't stand for very long. Whereas
Yes.
their tombs were built out of
Stone.
stone, and the interior inside them and the pains that they went to is because they thought they were buried with all sorts of their artifacts and treasures, and it's incredible. And when you see these mummies lying there, and they've still got hair on their heads and their teeth, and you're looking at them thinking, wow, that makes reality to me it helped me picture life back then.
Yes, you're quite right to say that they really regarded their second life after death, as the more important one, and they really spent their first lives, the real life on Earth, preparing for their second life,
Yes.
making sure that they had a nice place to be in the second life. But also they had a lot of beliefs around that. They had multiple gods that
They all prayed, yes.
I mean, I sort of regard it as quite a childish belief system that they had, but I can understand back in those days it must have been very difficult without the scientific knowledge that we have now to comprehend, these things like earthquakes and floods and the existence of crocodiles, for instance, coming and eating your children and your humans,
Yes.
your adults, I should say. So, and of course, what their answer to that was to worship they worship the crocodiles in the hope of appeasing them and making them calm down. Of course, it didn't work. But they even, made a crocodile-headed god that they used to worship alongside their other composite gods. When I say composite, I mean mixture of animal or bird and human figure. And as I understand it, nobody really knows where the original concept of these gods emerged from. I mean, I suppose it was just thousands of years of development, but it just seemed all rather childish. I mean, when they were preparing, for instance, the king's tomb, they would sort of prepare it on the basis that, well, he's got to have his favorite foods there for his second life. And we've got to make sure that, he has his breakfast in the morning, gets up and that he's helped to bed at night, and he has all the good things around him that he needs, because he's going to need those.
That's what they found in Tutankhamun's tomb, didn't they?
What's that?
Well, they found the first thing they saw, I think, what was his name? Howard Carter, who was actually an Englishman. I'm sure a lot of people know that already. I didn't know that, my naivety, but he was a British Egyptologist, or
Yep.
and he when he discovered this tomb and looked in, and they're all saying, "What can you see?" And he said, all he could see were these. He said, "This is the most amazing sight," and he could. There were wheels, part of cart, for traveling. There was artifacts, and there was his mask,
His golden mask is
his
famous.
golden mask, and just lots and lots of treasures, like a storeroom, like you'd open up an old storeroom, an old garage, or an old shed, and see all this stuff just all intact. That's what they saw first before they even found
Of course, we in the Valley of the
his.
Kings, we actually went down into three tombs, didn't we? That were open. They
Yes.
rotate the tombs. The government rotates the tombs that are open every year. I think there are about 60 odd of them, but they only have like three open. Four maybe there's the extra if you pay extra to go into the King Tut one, where nothing's there except his mummy.
Well, they put him back, haven't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the work and the years and the labor that must have gone into building these fantastic tombs is just awesome. It's awesome,
Well,
really.
that's all they could have done, isn't it? Isn't that all they could
Yeah,
have done?
I think
Because
whole
took,
lives, generations must have been dedicated to building these things, because of their belief system. They just felt it was, that was what their first life work should be all about. So
took about 20 years, didn't it, to build? Wasn't it 20 years? Did I? Or am I making that up? To
20 to
build a.
30, I think it was, to build
Oh, right.
a
Okay.
pyramid. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, we just saw things that you have to really see in order to believe, don't you?
Yes.
um,
Yes.
I mean,
Exactly.
the size of the sarcophaguses, the coffins, and they were sort of made out of one piece of rose granite, just beautifully sculpted. Um,
And then there was wasn't there I mean, it was a bit like the Russian doll concept, where
yes,
you had a doll within inside a doll within inside a doll, where the king was in one mummified, then he was put in one casket, which was all molded, then put in another one. And I think there was three, wasn't there? There'd be about three before you
yeah, something like
covering
that. Because
each other.
they
Yes.
would they'd also they would sort of disembowel the body, wouldn't they? They'd take out the heart, liver, brain,
Oh, that's right. And
and
put
then
them
they would
separately
put them
in tombs.
separately in their own little tombs, as I understand it. And of course, they did that with crocodiles too, because
Yes.
that was part of their sort of glorification of the crocodile, in order to try and make the crocodiles treat them nicely. So, bit of a kind of fool's errand, really. But
Yes. Well, there was the egg, wasn't there? Then there was a fetus. Then there was a
yeah,
baby one, and then and they were all sized up. It was, but seeing these eggs, the crocodile eggs intact, where the sort of blue vein could have come through from obviously the crocodile inside the egg, was like a real bright blue veined all over the white egg. It was
And
It was,
apparently
it was, m-
apparently the mummified crocodiles were only found sort of in relatively recent times,
yes,
19th century sort of times. And when they found them, they were really pissed off. The, the explorers, the archaeologists were really pissed off because they wanted to find um, human mummies, and they kept finding these bloody crocodiles. They just chucked them away. Um, and then I think one of them they broke open, and then they found that they had stuffed them. What's that paper called? The Egyptian paper that lasts for 5,000 years?
um, pap,
Preserved colors?
papyrus,
Yeah.
yeah, papyr,
So they
papyrus
found that they were
grass.
stuffing these
Made,
crocodiles with paper that had been used to record things on. Uh, and then somebody started to start looking at that paper. And what they did is they learned lots and lots about the history of ancient Egyptians from studying those papers that had been discarded to stuff inside the
yeah,
mummified crocodile. Isn't that funny? They learned so much from them. And then, of
incredible.
course, they realized that these things they really wanted to preserve as well as the human mummies. And of course, a lot more crocodiles were mummified probably than humans because there were just so many crocodiles in the Nile.
Yeah,
It
well,
just
there isn't any now, is there,
no,
in the
because
Nile? They're the other side
the building of the
of the
dam, the
dam.
Aswan Dam, meant that crocodiles could no longer pass into the Nile from the what's now the Nassau Lake, and so all the crocodiles are still in the lake, and they can never enter the Nile anymore.
Isn't it the largest lake in the world?
Largest man-made lake, I believe, is
Largest man-made lake in the world,
I,
yeah.
I
And
believe that's correct.
I think there's about 48, they believe there's about 48,000 crocodiles trapped the other side
I
of the
don't know
dam. So
about that, but
that's what I
you
heard.
obviously heard something that I didn't. But that
Yes.
was the sort of, yeah, the visit to the Aswan Dam was quite different, wasn't it, compared to all the other excursions that we did, because obviously relatively modern. It was finished in
Yes.
1970. Um, so, but it was a huge structure which made a big difference to the area. But
Yes.
so we've come to the end of our time. Uh, so we just got time to kind of sum up. So we would thoroughly recommend, wouldn't we? Anybody goes
We would,
on a Nile cruise.
absolutely.
It's something certainly to do once. Um, we had we had the benefit of the additional element of the vegan side of it because we were able to meet our friends that we've been on other trips with who have that we have that common bond with because they're also vegan, most of them, although quite a few omnivores go on vegan travel holidays too, just to have a break from animal products and to see how they like plant-based food, and a lot of them convert as a result of these trips. So it's an opportunity to do that. But for everybody, we would recommend doing the Nile cruise once. I'm not sure that it would be good for people with mobility issues because there is a lot of walking around in brutal heat. I think the hottest temperature that we experienced was 47 degrees Celsius, which of course really is brutal.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of uneven ground. There's climbing. If you want to obviously explore the tombs and the temples, there's getting on and off boats that don't inspire you with their safety
No, and heat
consciousness.
stroke. I mean, and people who suffer
Heat
from heat
stroke.
stroke can't stand that kind of heat is brutal. I
Yeah.
mean,
The
you
other
have
thing
to
the other thing that
walk around with lots of water.
sorry to interrupt you. I'm just conscious of time. The other thing that we should mention, though, that we were constantly plagued with is that Egypt just has a tipping culture, which you just cannot escape from anywhere you go. They are trying to do things for you that then mean that you feel obligated to tip the entire time. They're up to all kinds of tricks, grabbing your luggage and then asking you for money because they've helped you with your luggage and you just didn't want them to touch the luggage. And that goes on. And these are including airport employees. And even though that I had to say to one in Cairo, look, because he was asking me for a tip when I was going through security, and I said, it actually says on the signs, do not tip the staff. Do not tip the staff. He was completely unimpressed by that. But that is all day, every day, and it's the tour guides who are well-educated people. They know their stuff, but they feel it's perfectly normal to keep harassing you for tips.
Yeah. Bus drivers, everything.
Yes,
it's very wearing, actually.
It is,
very wearing.
And that I think that's something that the government should really crack down on, because it's no doubt about it. It puts tourists off because everybody was complaining about it. So I think they really ought to get on top of that. The other thing that is that it's there's this presence of security, police carrying machine guns everywhere, and when you go into hotels, you have to go through metal scanners, and these days one understands that, but they don't really take it, although they've got the cosmetic look of a lot of security, they don't really take things very seriously. Like, for instance, I got into the habit of walking through the scanners with my phones because they really didn't bother when they bleeped off, and in fact they encouraged you to do that because it made their life easier. So it's a semblance of security which is not really matched by any substance. So there was that. But all in all, a great experience, and we're glad we've done it. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Would it be possible for you to put some photos just to go along with this episode on the Facebook page, Refinement Not Retirement? That would be lovely if you wouldn't mind doing that. It's always good to have a few images to go along with what we've been talking about, including that one about the balloon, that vista of the hot air balloons. That would be great.
Yes.
I think that's all for this episode, though. So thanks for listening, and thanks for continuing to support us, and we will see you next time. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.